Welcome to Project Foodie. Hey guys, my name is Daniel Holzman. I'm the chef owner of the Meatball Shop restaurant in New York City.
I take after my grandmother. My grandmother was a huge fan of tiny balls.
I didn't say it.
You have just selected my poached chicken and butter lettuce salad with tomatoes, avocados, and herbs. This whole meal is gonna take you 30 minutes and has 4 simple steps. I love poached chicken because it's got a really tender texture and it stays really moist. I mean, most people don't have a grill to grill chicken. Poaching chicken is really clean. And for me, boneless, skinless chicken, I mean, for most chefs, boneless, skinless chicken breast is something that we kind of like roll our eyes a little bit at people for eating. You know, we think like, you want the chicken skin and you want the chicken leg, even better than that, with the skin on it. And there aren't a lot of ways that I love boneless, skinless chicken breast. It's kind of like diet food, except when it's really gently poached. I think it's very moist and it has a particularly delicate flavor. You ready to get started? So the first thing you need to do before we begin cooking is gather all the ingredients and all the tools you're gonna need. In a professional kitchen, we call this mise en place, having everything you need sensibly laid out at a hand's reach. You're gonna need the following tools for our poached chicken salad. I have a medium pot for poaching our chicken, preferably with a tight-fitting lid to help the water boil quickly, a cutting board and knife, some measuring cups and measuring spoons, a lime reamer or a lime squeezer, a couple of small plates for cutting tomatoes, I'll get to that later, and a large mixing bowl. I have no idea who invented the salad spinner, but this might be the single most useful tool in the entire kitchen other than a knife and cutting board and frying pan. I mean, if you've ever washed your salad or your lettuce greens and then tried to dry them, you can use like rolls of paper towel and it's still wet. One quick press on this bad boy and you're like dry like laundry. So, thank you, whoever did that. Really appreciate it. For the poached chicken salad with avocado, cherry tomato, and lime, you're gonna need the following ingredients. Boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I wanna smell my chicken breasts and smell nothing. If it smells funky at all, my chicken is not fresh. Kosher salt. And every time we cook together, you're gonna hear me make my spiel about why I use kosher salt. It's inexpensive, and I always use the same brand because different salts have different sized grains, and I want my pinch of salt to be a consistent, amount of salinity. I'm adding 1 pinch of salt. Next thing you know, you use a different salt, and you added twice as much salt with 1 pinch. That doesn't work, so I always use the same type of salt. I have a whole pile of fresh herbs here because this is gonna be a herb salad. I love fresh herbs in our salads. We have basil leaves, fresh parsley, cilantro, dill, and fresh mint. These are all great herbs for eating raw. Cherry tomatoes. I always snack on one at the supermarket and make sure they're super sweet before I buy them. Olive oil. And because we're gonna be using a lot of lime, I wanna make sure I have a very neutral, light, inexpensive olive oil. Some of the more flavorful olive oils interact with the lime and can be quite bitter. Ripe avocados. A great trick to tell if an avocado is ripe but not overripe is I just pop out this little top piece and I wanna see inside that it's got a nice, bright green color, but it's soft to the touch. When it's really dark brown in there, it means that it's gone over its prime. Limes. I just give them a little squeeze and make sure that they're not terribly tough. Celery. And butter lettuce. This recipe has 4 simple steps. Step 1, we're gonna poach our chicken. Step 2, we wanna wash our greens and prep all of our veggies. Step 3, we're gonna prep our herbs and garnish. And then step 4, cut our chicken, mix and season everything, and we're gonna eat. This cook-along system is based on the way that I train cooks in my restaurants. We cook everything together. So I'm gonna be here with you for every second of the process until your meal hits the plate. Feel free to hit pause, rewind, or slow it down whenever you need to. So for step 1, we're gonna go ahead and poach our chicken. I have a foolproof way to poach chicken so it stays super moist. I'm gonna take a medium pot, fill it up with cold water, about halfway. And we're gonna place our chicken breasts directly into the cold water. With a generous handful of kosher salt. And we're just gonna put it over high heat, covered, to come up to a boil. This should take about 7 minutes to boil. By bringing the chicken up with the water, it's gonna cook really slowly and perfectly evenly, so it'll stay really nice and moist. Step 2, we wanna wash our greens and prep all of our veggies. For our lettuce, I've got this beautiful head of butter lettuce. There are a couple of wilted leaves at the bottom, which I'm just gonna pick off. You can trim off some of the kind of darker wilted green ends. And then what we can do is just use our knife to cut around the core of the lettuce and pull that out. And then the lettuce should just fall apart into these beautiful, nice, big leaves. Some of the smaller ones are perfect. Some of these larger ones are a little bit big. I can just stack those on top of each other. And what you want to do is just gently cut them in half. And I'm really gentle with lettuce because if I'm grabbing and pushing on it, I can bruise it really easily. I want it to remain crispy, vibrant green. That's all we're gonna do for the lettuce. We could place the lettuce directly into our salad spinner. And we wanna fill it up with cold water. Until the lettuce is completely submerged. And the idea here is we want to make sure that the lettuce is completely submerged in the water and floating. The reason for that is lettuce floats, but sand doesn't. There are little tiny rocks that sink to the bottom. And if we wash our lettuce and there's not enough water for it to float, the sand stays on top of it. So I literally just agitate it really gently. And I'm getting all the sand to fall to the bottom of the pot. I let the water settle for a second, and then I'm gonna lift the lettuce out of the water. You never wanna dump the water out because then you're dumping the sand that's fallen to the bottom over. So you just lift it out. You can dump out the sandy water. If there's a lot of sand in there, you might wanna just give it a quick rinse. And then we can spin our salad. And I like to give it a few aggressive spins so that it's fully dry. And then we can just put it right into our bowl that we're going to use to mix the salad later. That's our lettuce. We have cherry tomatoes. And I've got this super cool trick for cutting cherry tomatoes in half. It takes forever to cut cherry tomatoes in half, unless you have 2 small plates. I take my 2 small plates. You could put your cherry tomatoes right there on top of them. Man down. Take your second plate, upside down on top, and then with light pressure holding the plate down, you can just slice through, cutting all of your cherry tomatoes in half, just like that, super easily. And those can go right into the bowl. Couple of stalks of celery. I absolutely love celery. It's gonna give a great crunch to this salad. We could just trim off some of these bottom ends and then thinly slice it. I stack the celery on top and I just thinly slice it at a slight bias. I just want to make sure that the celery are sliced into thin 1/8 inch pieces, so I'm not getting a big old mouthful, but it's just a little piece all the way through.
I'm most likely going to chop faster than you, so please hit pause and take your time.
When I'm slicing these, I'm keeping my knife on the cutting board and I'm just using the rocking motion of the knife, guiding it with my fingers from the back. And those can go right in our salad bowl. See that fly? Almost got that bad boy. He likes celery too. I'm gonna take a second and check on our chicken. It looks like it's just coming up to a boil. Once the water is boiling, lower the flame to simmer and cook the chicken for another 10 to 13 minutes. Step 3, we're gonna prep our herbs and garnish. And we can repeat the washing step with our herbs that we're gonna pick now. So we have some fresh parsley, and we can just pick some leaves off, throw them right into our salad spinner. And when I'm picking parsley, I'm just being gentle to pick it off without bruising it. And I want to make sure that I get all the leaves, not too much stem. And it should be pretty easy and quick. The thing about bruising the herbs is in certain circumstances, when I want to, marinate something and I want all the flavor of the herbs and all the kind of like volatile fragrances to come out, I will bruise the herbs on purpose. But for something like this, where I want it to be really vibrant green, look beautiful on the plate in the salad, I like to make sure that I'm gentle with it. All of these herbs are going to add a great flavor to our salad. We don't see a lot of salad with tons of fresh herbs in them, so it's kind of special when you use it as an ingredient, unexpected and really delicious. People will think you're gourmet. You gourmet. You gourmet. Like that. Your friends will call you gourmet. You can call yourself gourmet. So we have some parsley. I throw all of my vegetable waste in the sink. If I'm constantly going back and forth between the trash can with stuff on my hands, it wastes time. I can clear out my sink later. Some cilantro. And again, I'm just picking off the leaves at the top. And the cilantro is really easy. If I just start at the bottom and just kind of pull the stem down, all the leaves will pop off into my fingers. I like to use these specific herbs like cilantro and basil and dill, mint, because they all taste really great, fresh and raw. Some of the other herbs like bay leaves or thyme or rosemary are actually really tough and better off cooked. They're not really great raw. We've got our cilantro and our parsley. Some of these mint leaves are very big, so you can just kind of tear them into some pieces rather than just put the whole thing in there, which could be quite aggressive if I got like a big old mint leaf. I can smell as I'm crushing the mint and tearing it. It's just got such a strong, amazing flavor. Maybe I'll put a little bit less of this because it's so strong. Some fresh basil leaves. And again, some of these leaves are a little bit big, so we can just tear them into pieces as we throw them in. Basil is one of those amazing ingredients that I can always find fresh in supermarkets. It's great how basil's become so popular that no matter where you go, you find fresh, perfect basil. And then dill. I love dill. You know, I used to, as a kid, going to restaurants, I felt like there was dill in everything. And it became unpopular lately because it was kind of like everybody was using dill and people just stopped. But it's so delicious that I've started using it a lot. I love to eat it raw. It lends a super distinct flavor that, you know, everybody recognizes. It brings me back to my childhood. So we have dill, mint, basil, parsley, and cilantro right in here. It's a little bit sandy. I can feel it on my fingers. I'm going to go ahead and fill this guy up with ice cold water right from the sink. Again, just enough until my herbs start to float and they're submerged. I can agitate them as the water's filling. Then I want to just kind of stir them around really gently, but make sure that I'm getting them really nice and washed. Take a second, let the water settle. The sand is going to fall to the bottom. And then you just want to lift your herbs out and dump the water into the sink. If there's any sand in the colander, you can just give it a little rinse and dump it out. And then we want to give these a spin in the spinner just to dry them off real well. You're going to enlist the help of centrifugal force. Some scientists came up with this and they haven't been given their proper thank you. I just want to thank you, whoever you were. So smart. I'm going to Google that later. Herbs go right in my bowl with my salad. Try and get them all out of here. They're washed. So to cut our avocados, I've got this one really lovely large avocado that's perfectly ripe. We pulled out the little stem bolster and it's still green, but it's soft to the touch. And the way we like to cut these avocados is we just hold it flat and cut straight through the middle into the avocado until you feel the core. And then holding the knife straight, we can just twist the avocado around the pit until we've cut it in half. Using two hands, you can grab the avocado, twist a little bit, and voila. We have our avocado perfectly cut in half. I transfer the pit side into my submissive hand and use my dominant hand to hold the knife and gently tap the pit with the back part of my knife. I give it a little twist, remove the pit, and using the thumb of my cutting hand, I just push the pit off the avocado into my hand-ish. And you can grow this, but I don't know if you know this, an avocado pit will never produce an avocado producing tree. So you will get an avocado tree out of here, but you will never be able to harvest a fruit from the pit of an avocado because they're all grafted. Just don't want you to waste your time. You know what I'm saying? Avocado trees are clones, just like apple trees. They're all clones. You can't just grow the seed of an avocado and get an avocado. You get a tree, but it doesn't produce fruit. They're all clones. You take a cutting from a tree that does produce, you graft it onto the rootstock of something else, and it grows a new tree, just like an apple. That's why every single Granny Smith apple is a direct descendant of the original tree in Granny Smith's backyard. That might not be true. Next step is we have our avocados. They're perfect and they're in half. And you know, everybody's got a different way to do this. People scoop it out with a spoon. People like to cut it in the shell and flip it over. I find this way works really well. It's super easy, and I think that you will appreciate it as well. We cut the avocados in half again. So we have these nice quarters of avocado, and then just like a banana, we can take the peel and peel it right off. We get these perfect chunks of avocado that aren't mushed up at all. And if our avocado's ripe, the peel just comes off perfectly. We give it, stack them up on the cutting board, and then we can go ahead and chop these up for our salad. I think it's nice to have big chunks, so we can cut each of these quarters into 3 pieces, line them up next to one another. If you're gentle with the avocados like we're being, we can just cut them into perfect little dice, but the more slices and mashes and moves that you make, the more likely you're going to mush them up. The good news is mashed up avocado tastes great too. These we can put right on top gently. Take a second to clean our cutting board. I'm constantly keeping my cutting board surface, the area around my cutting board, and my knife clean. A great tip is, anytime someone walks into the kitchen, I should be able to shake their hand with my right hand. So anything that's soiled and dirty, I use my left hand to touch food while I'm cutting, and the right hand is safe because it's dry and clean, just like my knife handle is dry and clean. I'm not gonna slip and cut myself. I can chop, 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 wipe it, use my left hand to put it in. Someone walks in the kitchen, I say, hey pal, I shake their hand, I know I'm in good shape.
The chicken is done poaching once it reaches an internal temperature of 160 degrees. And if you don't have a digital thermometer, the best way to check if your chicken is done is simply cut into it and look to see that the pink center has changed to white cooked chicken. And everybody knows what cooked chicken looks like. So if your chicken isn't cooked, continue cooking it.
What we can do is just gently use the lid to hold the chicken in there while we drain the water out. And I'm gonna fill the pot up with cold water just to cool the chicken slightly so it's easy for me to dice. And it's not so warm that it wilts our lettuce. It'll be really nice to have room temperature or lukewarm chicken in our salad. I don't really love ice cold chicken. So let that cool for a moment. And then we can dice it up and dress our salad for step 4.
In the meantime, tidy and organize your cooking area.
And then step 4, cut our chicken, mix and season everything, and we're gonna eat. We're gonna take our chicken that's been sitting in the water for a couple minutes. It's still warm to the touch, but it's not hot. And what we can do is just give this a quick dice by cutting it once down the center. And I can see the inside of the chicken is still nice and moist. It's not like bright, bright white. There's a little bit, just a barely pink color where the chicken has just been cooked. I'm just gonna flip it. Cut it to 3/4 inch slices this way, 3/4 inch slices this way, 3/4 inch slices this way, and 3/4 inch slices this way. This is going to go right into our salad bowl. And the dressing for this salad is super simple. We're just going to mix this with fresh lime, olive oil, salt, and that's it. It should be really delicious. I like to cut it into chunks because I like that all the pieces are kind of the same size. I've got these, chunks of avocado, these chunks of cherry tomatoes. It's gonna look really beautiful on the plate. I don't prefer when my salad looks like a salad I might buy at like a chain restaurant. And they usually cut their chicken into strips. Not that having multiple restaurants is a bad thing. I'm like into kind of some chain restaurants, apparently, like the meatball ones. I prefer to cut my chicken into chunks because it's the same size as the avocado and the tomatoes. I think it's gonna look really beautiful and playful on the plate. And for our dressing, I've got a healthy amount of olive oil. I mean, this is one of the main ingredients. And I've got that kind of warm chicken right on the top. I'm pouring the olive oil all over the warm chicken. And as the chicken cools, it's gonna absorb that olive oil, and it's gonna be so moist and delicious. A nice big pinch of kosher salt. The juice of a lime. And again, to use one of these guys, I'm gonna counterintuitively place my lime upside down, and by pressing it, it's actually gonna turn the lime inside out. It's gonna juice it completely. And by turning it inside out, we're gonna get all of the flavor of the oil from the skin crushed and mixed in. It just smells super fragrant. This is my go-to afternoon. I cooked my chicken. I ate my chicken legs. What am I gonna do with those normally dry and not so appetizing breasts? Make a salad for lunch meal. So I'm just gently using both of my hands, tossing this, and I want to make sure that I mix it up. Probably the most important and most often overlooked step whenever people make a salad like this is they don't taste it before they serve it. You get so excited, your hands are dirty, you're like, I gotta just put it on the table. But this is the moment when I'm like, does it have the right amount of salt? Does it have the right amount of acid? I can still change it before my guests are, thinking I'm a bad cook. For me, that's really subtle and delicious. I don't think it needs anything. I'm gonna rinse my hands off so I don't get grease all over our plates. Get our plates in place. And then all of our ingredients, the chicken and the tomatoes and the avocado, they've all fallen to the bottom. So what we can do is we can just kind of plate some lettuces around the bottom of the plate. Like that. And then we can scoop some of these beautiful vegetables right on top, making sure to evenly distribute them. And there we have just like a world-class summertime light lunch. Butter lettuce salad, poached chicken, herbs, cherry tomatoes, avocados dressed with olive oil and lime. A few people were like, poached chicken breast salad doesn't sound that excited. When I'm looking at this thing, it's like glistening and begging me to eat it. This is absolutely delicious. And for all you like real healthy people out there, this is like a marathoner's lunch. Come on, let's eat this. Minus like all the carbohydrates you need to run the marathon. The chicken is very moist and tender. And the avocados are in big chunks, which I love. I've got these nice big pieces of lettuce, which are gonna elegantly fit inside my mouth. It's a delicious salad. It's a delicious chicken salad. Can I ask you a big favor? Is there any way you could just take a picture of this delicious salad and post it on Instagram so that your friends know to find us? I hope you've enjoyed this Project Foodie cook along, and I hope you'll join us for more.